Good morning. It's good to see you. And I think the fact that we're seeing you means that you have power, and that's great too. December has arrived, bringing her gifts of winter. And this is a season for us always to gather ourselves up, gather ourselves in. We live in December with all kinds of longings, longings for stillness, longings for festivity and surprise. And these days, maybe most of all, longings to be together, to gather ourselves up. And so we lived through this December longing to be able to have cups of tea together and unguarded conversation. And it is our work to notice our longings, to notice what they tell us about what we value most and where we struggle the most. And so on Sundays, we gather ourselves up to remember our kindness for ourselves and our kindness for each other, and to keep remembering the ways that we can reach for each other and warm each other up, the ways that we can live together through these aching and beautiful days, and gather to find a stillness, a rest, an opening for gratitude in this ever-changing universe. I invite you to light your chalice or gather up whatever it is that you have that helps you find that center on Sunday mornings, helps you tend the fire, create the spark. Remember that you're part of something larger, always. And I invite you to speak the words of our covenant while we light our chalices. The words will be in the chat, and we may know them by heart also. See, our tech team has discovered that they're not in our usual script this morning, so we may tell them by, say it by, oh, it's there. Of course, the tech team has found them. Thank you, tech team, as always. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth, its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to serve humanity in fellowship, to respect the nurturing power within all of us. Thus do we covenant. And I invite you to join in singing a song for centering, a song for December. Find a stillness. The words are in the chat.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Let the silence hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit
The reading this morning is just a tiny little poem by Jared Anderson. I actually found it in my Twitter feed. And it was one of those moments when a little fragment of the world goes by and you think, oh, there's something there in that. All of the things that are happening at once. The universe is an ongoing explosion. That is where you live, in an explosion. We absolutely don't know what living is. Sometimes atoms just get very haunted. That's us. When an explosion explodes hard enough, dust wakes up and thinks about itself.
This morning, we are talking about the stillness inside an explosion. Wait, what? No, I must have read that wrong. There is stillness in an explosion. Okay, yes, let's think about the universe. It started with a big bang, an explosion. Yeah. Everything in the universe is constantly moving away from the center. But when we look into space, it seems still. That's because we are inside the explosion. It looks still to us, but if we could stand outside our universe, we would see a giant explosion getting bigger and bigger. So with that in mind, let's open our wonder boxes. During the pandemic, young people between the ages of 0 and 12 may sign up to have wonder boxes delivered to their houses. If your child is not currently on the Wonderbox list and would like to be, you can sign up by clicking the link that will appear in the chat. So let's see what we have inside this box. What do we have, Lily? A toilet paper roll.
A blue one.
A blue one. And what else? Some balloons, okay? And some, oh, there's some kidney beans in there. A whole bunch of little kidney beans. And some space stickers, okay? I wonder what all this stuff is for. Oh, that's right. I remember. We are going to make homemade maracas to make our own mini explosions out of noise. But how do we do that? Oh, what's this?
Oh, what's that?
Let's see. Oh, phew. Some instructions with words and pictures. Good thinking, me. Yes, you're very excited. We're gonna build it. That's right. All right. So let's follow these instructions to make a space-themed shaker. And then, okay, guys, shh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. Lily took. Okay. So let's have
Take mine.
our space-themed shakers ready by the end of the service because Taylor is going to lead us in our own mini explosion extravaganza.
That's life these days, isn't it? You're going along doing one thing and then there's a sorrow or a disturbance or a meeting, a joy pops in that you didn't expect. Being inside of the explosion, being inside of the story that is unfolding right now means it's sometimes hard to keep perspective on our own lives. This morning, taking us into meditation, I offer you a poem by Jan Richardson. This comes from her book called A Cure for Sorrow. And I've read from her often, and I love her for the way she meets, well, everything. To all that is chaotic in you, let there come silence. Let there be a calming of the clamoring, a stilling of the voices that have laid their claim on you, that have made their home in you, that go with you even to the holy places, but will not let you rest, will not let you hear your life with wholeness or feel the grace that fashioned you. Let what distracts you cease. Let what divides you cease. Let there come an end to what diminishes and demeans, and let depart all that keeps you in its cage. Let there be an opening into the quiet that lies beneath the chaos, where you find the peace you did not think possible, and see what shimmers in the storm. I invite you into a time of quiet, that we might find even a moment of that peace. The universe is an ongoing explosion. That's where you live, inside an explosion. We absolutely don't know what living is. Sometimes atoms just get very haunted. That's us. When an explosion explodes hard enough, dust wakes up and starts thinking about itself. That is where you live in an ongoing explosion explains a lot. The too muchness, the uncomfortable empty spaces, the knocking into each other, the sense that nothing stays the same for long enough. The grief, the dazzle. That explosion, of course, is the universe, the state of being propelled outward from the locus of the Big Bang, traveling steadily away from what was into the great unknown. And the explosion in the poem is also the state of our current world, our present moment, our country, our economy. Maybe your own life feels that way right now. This sense that the state of the universe on the cosmic scale and the feelings that we have about our days being linked is fractal, that the smallest and the largest repeat the same pattern, which is to say that the swirling universe and our own minds are linked together. That is a revelation. In our tradition, we don't have a single holy text, one place that we go for the word, for the revelation of what is divine or what is true or what is spiritual insight. So when I choose texts, I'm always looking for that ongoing revelation in this exploding world. And I recognize a certain awakeness in my mind and heart and body when I read it or take it in. Not that it's the whole truth. Revelation is always partial, always subject to revision, always subject to the fact that we are moving on. The sense in this little poem that we are the universe becoming is the spark of revelation. Revelation is its own tiny explosion, really, bringing new light and new energy to life. And hopefully within that fresh light, there is a new chance at stillness. That little poem goes from explosion to stillness, from dust thinking about itself to dust gazing out into the universe and recognizing itself. Spaces so empty that they're frightening, and star nurseries full of light and creation. And then the great clouds that scatter that light so that we can't tell what's happening now. Richard Rohr, a Franciscan mystic and a leader in both the Christian tradition and I think for spiritual seekers in every tradition, has talked a lot about how to renew Christianity. And what he's looking for in that renewal is, I think, to some extent, this sense of finding revelation again, of being willing to not know and walk into the world with a fresh set of eyes. And he has often talked about Christianity being more interested in doing things a certain way than about truly knowing the holy. He is a man who's pretty interested in what it means to be dust that wakes up. And being a mystic, he's interested in the experience of the religious and spiritual life, what it's like to be in it, not just to think about it. And he's also someone who's very comfortable not knowing the answer and simply noticing the complexity, which is why this is a story that he tells often. And if you follow him, you may have heard him tell this story of being part of a conference in his town in Albuquerque, in which the scientists and the religious leaders got together and talked about their own studies and their own work and how they might work together. And he said that he found that the scientists were sometimes more relaxed and comfortable with paradox, with holding two things that might be true at the same time than some of his fellow Christian leaders. So one of the scientists that he met and talked with turned out to be a rabbi. And the rabbi explained to Rohr that Christianity had misunderstood the third commandment, to not take the name of God in vain. That the Christian concern is to not say bad things in the name of God, like God damn it. And Rohr said, well, you know, it's probably not great to say that, but that's not what that commandment is about, according to this rabbi. In the Jewish tradition, it is understood to mean, do not say the name of God with emptiness. Meaning, don't say God and miss the profundity of that name, miss the depth of what that's about. Don't just be casual about it. So in the most orthodox parts of the Jewish tradition, of course, they don't ever say the name of God. They sometimes say the name instead of saying God. And you have probably seen in Jewish texts, God spelled G-D, to leave that sense of partially the unknown and respect for the holiness there. The rabbi said, not only that, but when God is written in Hebrew, when the name Yahweh is written in Hebrew, it's written in such a way that your mouth can never quite close, that there are no stops in the sounds of Yahweh. And he said that's because the name of God in Hebrew is actually meant to imitate, to recreate breathing. And I'll see Rohr does this into the microphone, and he's imitating the rabbi, and I'll see if I can do it. So Yahweh is the name of God, and if you breathe in and out, your breathing is itself the name of the holy. That way that we sustain our lives in the Jewish tradition, in those Hebrew letters, try to contain the most holy and hold on to the fact that we don't fully grasp it. We can't fully understand how it is that we are these breathing beings in this ongoing explosion where dust has woken up. Rohr goes on to say that that means that with our every breath, we are naming God or naming the holy or living how holy this life is. And he says it's so important to notice that it means that God or the holy or the spiritual experience or loving completely, that is not something that happens in the brain alone, that it's something that happens in our bodies, in the cells of our bodies. We live in an explosion, which is to say, in a glorious, heart-rending, unfathomable mystery all the time. You could live as if your very breathing is the naming of the holy. What is always true in December is especially true this December. Most intensely true in this northern hemisphere, on this watery planet spinning through a galaxy, spinning through space. The empty spaces are big. The light of revelation, although we want it, may be hard on the eyes. Connecting with each other may be especially sweet and especially hard. It is just that way right now in the midst of this particular part of the explosion. So what that means most of all is be gentle with yourself and everyone you encounter. We are all in the midst of this and all trying to remember that our breath is part of the naming of the holy. Trying to remember that we absolutely don't know what living is. We are just waking up to it. We are trying to breathe through the explosion and find the holy in the sound and beyond the sound.
I'm ready to see those space-themed instruments. All right, hold that right up there, Lily. Okay, so these are awesome. Okay, now, just like I promised, Taylor is going to lead us in a musical extravaganza where we demonstrate the stillness inside an explosion. And guess what? You are going to get to unmute for it, but not yet, when Taylor tells you to. You will need to listen very carefully so that you know what to do. Does everybody have their listening ears on?
Yep.
All right, over to you, Taylor.
All right. Well, now that you've made your musical instruments, we're going to make up or improvise a song. So since our musical instruments can make a lot of cool sounds, we're going to try to make a song that uses both silence and sound together. So while we make our explosion with our instruments, we're going to listen so we can find our stillness. So believe it or not, paying attention to silence, that's a big part of music making. And when we find stillness between our notes in music, we have time to reflect on the sounds we hear and the feelings that they make us feel. So without silence, music would just be constant noise. So I'm going to play some music on the piano while we make up. And as the music gets bigger and louder, we're going to slowly unmute and start to feel how the music is starting to crescendo and get bigger and louder. And then instead of me saying freeze, so this is kind of like a game of musical freeze tag, I'm going to hit these notes really high. And that's going to be our cue to stop. And we're just going to breathe for a second so that we can feel the silence of the music that we just made, okay? Everybody ready? Okay. So ready? Unmute now, but we're not going to play quite yet. But go ahead and unmute. Everybody take a deep breath. Here we go. You can start shaking your instruments.
stickers on there?
Good job, everybody. Nice music. Now back to Kendra.
So many offerings for the universe, both our joy and our silences, both our expressions of sorrow for our losses and our wild leaps of joy. We make an offering every week, both to the sustenance of this community and to the world around us, to always remember that the good work that this congregation does reaches out into the world beyond us in ways that we can never fully understand or appreciate. And so we give gifts knowing that they go out into the world, moving away from us and becoming something fresh all the time. There is a link in the chat if you would like to go to our website to make a donation. And thank you for all of the offerings you make for community life and in this world.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
I invite you to join in singing our closing hymn this morning, Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky. The words will be in the chat.
Touch the earth to reach the sky. Walk on shores and spirits fly.
I invite you to join in our unison benediction, a benediction for our community, a benediction for our days, a way to hold on to that breath of the holy. Go in peace, speak truth, give thanks each day. Respect the earth and all creatures, for they are alive like you. Care for your body. It is a wondrous gift. Be gentle with yourself. Live simply. Be of service. Be guided by your faith and not your fear. Go lightly on your way. Walk in a sacred manner. I hope that you can stay for coffee hour, which will happen in just a few minutes. And there is a separate little room of coffee hour if you would like to meet with Meg Shaney to remember her daughter. The link was in the chat earlier, and maybe our tech folks can drop the link for that. It's actually a separate Zoom meeting so that it can happen in its own time and not be in coffee hour time. So you can go to that meeting if you'd like to meet with Meg this morning, or you can stay right here for some conversation over tea or coffee, and we'll take a few minutes, get to hear some more beautiful music while we move around in our spaces. So we'll see you back here in a few minutes, or the gathering for Meg Shaney will start at 10:30. Be well.